I'm going to have you start, Andy. Tell us a little bit about the NFC technology you're applying in GEMS, and then some of the thoughts that you have on how this is going to be actually relevant for physical goods NFTs.
Yeah, it all kind of started over the summer. A lot of my crypto network was, as crypto was kind of starting to pump, and then they're like, "Hey, look at these other asset classes like baseball cards." And I grew up in the '90s collecting, Upper Deck and Flair Ultra and Tops and all that stuff, and got really saturated and really didn't hold its value and kind of lost interest as I grew up, so to speak. And then over the summer, started hearing about Charizard cards and hearing about all these collectibles. And first thing I thought about is it has the same problem as crypto, where you just don't have the right rails for transaction authentication. Marketplaces like eBay, StockX don't really take much responsibility for being a clearinghouse in terms of being able to hold payments, escrow. Sure, they have insurance, but some of these collectibles are one of a kind. And I was like, I don't mind selling a $500 card, but do I really want to sell a $10,000 card on this type of platform? And kind of really got me thinking about all the missing pieces. And this applies to not just collectibles, but luxury goods and other physical items. But essentially, the idea around it would be chipping these things, these assets. And when I say chipping, we're using NFC chips. And I don't know if you guys are familiar. NFC is the near frequency communication. It's in all your credit cards. So when you go and tap on your gas card or at a McDonald's for quick pay, that's the same technology that we're using. It has 48-bit encryption. Chips can have different form factors, different amount of memory. But the idea is that we're taking these physical goods and bringing them to the digital world. I saw this first being used in China for a lot of influencers. They were putting the chips inside of kind of limited collectible drops of, like, let's say, fashion apparel, and putting media and content onto these devices. So think like QR code when you scan something and then it jumps out to a web link. These celebrities or influencers were using these technologies to engage with their fans for limited items, and expanding that physical asset into a digital, you know, um, value, whether it be a limited edition song or movie clip or personalized message. That's how it's being expressed. Where Gems kind of comes into that ecosystem is we want these influencers, brands to drop their merch onto our site, but we provide like registries. So think simply like Zillow or like a Carfax. We become like the digital VIN number, and so we provide, when you go on StockX or eBay, you can only see what's being sold at the time within 2 weeks of that auction. You don't have an idea of total in circulation or liquidity. You can get price discovery, but you don't know if it had one owner, 10 owners, and you can't see if that item has actually appreciated, depreciated over time. Also, can't really distinguish between, let's say, a LeBron James jersey that was autographed at his basketball camp versus one that was, from Game 6 of a championship with champagne on it, authenticated by, let's say, like a third party, like a PSA or some of these other governing bodies. But so what we hope to do is kind of put our gems chip. The name gems comes from, like, a hidden gem, and we put these into all your valuables or collectibles, whether a purse, a watch, a basketball card, a jersey, these type of things. And so what we're doing to bring that and extend that to the digital or blockchain world is, we look at NFTs fundamentally differently. We kind of contrarian right now. We don't actually view the digital asset as the underlying asset. We view it more as a digital representation, which acts more as a title or deed, and is, a smart contract for change of ownership into the payment rails of the traditional world, via eBay, hand to hand, Craigslist, StockX, and the way that we would normally trade some of these items. And so that's kind of what we're building right now. We're excited. Got a couple of my team members on here today as well, in case there's any other questions. But we're excited about kind of helping some of these other NFT projects that have digital assets and art. Could we put a chip inside of a lithograph or a canvas and then convert that and bring that into the physical world? So we kind of have this moniker of P to V or V to P, which is, the physical to virtual or virtual to physical. And how do we cross between these two worlds? I'm just going to last on the last final thought here is, as we come out of the pandemic and I'm starting to go to these, physical events, no more Zoom, virtual events. Was at Bitcoin Week in Miami a couple weeks ago, and what it reminds us all is that as humans, we crave physical touch, holding something in our hand, seeing things in person, experiencing it. And to me, that reinforces that while NFTs are nice and having all these cool things in your digital wallet may not be where we're at currently in the market, at least to our thesis. And so I'll stop here, and yeah, would love to get everybody's thoughts and feedback on the topic.
Awesome. That's a lot to unpack. Thanks, Andy. So the question is, um, if you were to work on this company, Alex and the panel, what were some of the thoughts on the actual technical issues? Maybe Alex, you can answer this one as you're more technically savvy.
Yeah,
We
sure.
can hear you.
I'll
Okay, but unfortunately, can't hear you.
yeah, what about now? What about now?
We still can't hear you.
I can't mute him either. There we go.
Yeah, I did it. Sorry, he'll come back.
I
Um,
tried. I pressed on him and
Thanks,
there
Adrian.
was no mute button.
I know. Okay, so anybody has any thoughts on this technology actually plugging into the NFT space, or what are some thoughts that we have in terms of where to start, maybe?
Well, it's just kind of a funny thing because so it's like Back to the Future. I actually filed a patent on doing something very similar to this called dummy cord, which was an outreach of my military time where people would actually tie parachute cable to all their devices, night vision goggles and MREs and weapons and all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that struck me when I did all of that was Upper Deck. And what Upper Deck was doing was taking these little hologram stickers and putting those on things that were supposedly validated as authentic. And it was just like, well, anybody could throw a hologram on one of these things. But somehow it got into the consciousness of the buyers that this somehow proved validation. So I think this is the kind of thing that certainly could have legs. The Obviously it's always about the attention to the details, and the devil's in the details. Uh, I wonder if moving all of this stuff to a centralized catalog is the actual way to go, or if it's better to maybe sell it as a plug-in to the current e-commerce sites and just becoming essentially a supplier of the technology to them.
So that's one business model, right? Sort of developing the platform and the system surrounding that platform, and then selling it to people who want to digitize physical assets. But I think Andy wants to do more than that, right, Andy?
I mean, there's two components, and yeah, that's certainly something that we'd like to become a future reality as the standard for it. I think there's two pieces at I guess three really prongs that we kind of say that the chip can provide, right? First is the obvious authentication, right? If I put this in a Chanel, Louis Vuitton bag, if it doesn't have the chip in it, you know, we know that it's either pre-release or upon post-release, whatever. Now, people ask me, is that 100%? I mean, nothing in security in my background in cyber, if people want the asset, they're going to grab it, right? Air gapped, whatever they have to do to get it, it can be compromised, right? Some lady could throw out a purse in a dumpster, somebody could cut it out and put it into a counterfeit. That's certainly possible to counterfeit, right? So we can't stop everything, but the physical piece of authentication is at least the counterfeiter would have to have the capability to clone a chip, and there's probably hundreds of people and thousands of people in this world that have that capability. And we also have some back end measures on the software analytics side where if a chip is compromised or cloned, we can see GPS location from the phone where it's being tagged, and if it's too many tags within a time frame that a person could not go from LA to, let's say, Europe to Africa to China, within all this, we know that it's been compromised. We can shut down all the chips of that unique ID. The second piece that we focus on is the registry, like I said, the Zillow aspect, which is just cataloging and just giving the secondary market better information, right? Like providing previous owners. Some of these collectibles have a lot more value just because a celebrity owned it. Right now, a lot of what we have will be anonymized, but for sales effect, that's kind of why art and some of these other asset classes sell well, or an antique car because Jay Leno owned it or something like that, right? There's stories behind it. We're humans and we like the story sometimes more than the actual truth or the anonymity. The third piece is the digital value and unlocking that piece. So, how do we use this to provide transparency in the supply chain, like in the previous example, but then also how do we extend it to the metaverse? How do I come from gaming. I helped Zynga open their Beijing studio in China. At Consensus, we advised a few projects. One was called Gamer Token, right? Digital assets in games have always been kind of big, but problem is they only exist or show value in the game that they're played in, which is its own community, right? And I think what we can do is kind of help bring this digital to a much broader audience, to different things that we can explore, and we're certainly open to the digital piece that can be reserved later. But as far as like transparency and supply chain, like wanted to go back to that because kind of how I came up across this tech and how it's being expressed right now. I mean, I also manufacture these N95s down in Texas, and there was a lot of counterfeit and fraud within PPE and the shortages. And again, there was never really an economic gain to counterfeit 3M masks, but due to the shortages and health value of these products, it was a huge market, right? And so I've been sticking these into every box, pallet, case. So this is also a supply chain product, right? We're solving things. I'm providing test reports, compliance, NIOSH test, certificates. If anything again is compromised, it can be seen throughout the entire supply chain. There's traceability. So really, if we focus on the authentication and traceability pieces, that's kind of what we're offering. And again, collectibles is just another subset of that supply chain.
Did we
Oh,
talk about this during PPE? Because I recognize this, and it was so necessary. I even did suggest it to 3M, and I suggested a few other things so that they could end counterfeiting, and they just weren't interested. I was like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with 3M. That's a separate clubhouse, but yeah, they didn't really do much to stop it, and a lot of the supply chain, gray market. This would end all of that, and so politically speaking, with everything going on in this country, national security, not wanting to rely on foreign supply chains, there's going to be a lot of impetus for knowing where your products come from, and I think just from a consumer level, I think maybe I spent too much time in California, but a lot of these influencers are not going to be selling brands that are responsibly sourced, farm to table. What's an organic sticker on a fruit, right? I mean, you're paying a premium, but you have no idea what farm. Where's the pesticide testing? Where's the soil testing? We don't really know where any of our products come from anymore. And as we come more into this transparent world, how do we show the data, the testing to build trust back in the supply chain? There's a bill on the House right now on the floor talking about the Consumer Protection Act and extending it to 3PL. So, as you guys may or may not be aware, there's a lot of fake products on Amazon, Etsy, licensed goods, fake shampoo. It's a huge problem right now. And, traditionally speaking, when we went to the mall, you would trust, using the Upper Deck example, we trust the lid store because, that hologram on that baseball cap is in a retail environment. We trust that supply chain. But if you go into a Chinatown or a bodega in Queens, you're like, probably knockoff and I want the cheaper price, right? But that was kind of as humans, that's the way we've kind of interacted with counterfeit goods at a very low level, right? But now that with the responsibility on Amazon to be responsible for their third party sellers and being able to authenticate what they're selling is true, I think you're going to see a total behavioral change from the supply chain and the way consumers actually receive product and purchase their products.
Oh my goodness, that is your exit strategy. Amazon will buy you.
Amazon could probably figure this out themselves, but again, it's speed to market, as Mario said, execution,
It
right?
is
But
it
yeah,
is it is it is speed to market. And if you brand, what is your company name again?
it's called gems.
Gems. Okay, you brand Gems. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they will buy you.
Yeah, the idea is that we came with the idea of the name gems because it's a hidden gem, right? Inside your collectible, your treasure. And the idea is that we'd like to be like you know how you see on every laptop Intel inside. We want gems inside, right? So that consumers already know that if they buy a purse, a watch, a valuable whatever, a PPE, that they would basically go out and say, all right, well, this is a platform. Here's the app. I can go check and pull out all that data to know what I'm buying is true. We want that to be the behavioral standard. So if we can get to that point, then we can talk about exit strategy.
Okay, so I got to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a data privacy nut. If you're putting something in there that can be tracked, that's great. Like my iPhone, I can do find my iPhone and I can find it. But who else can find me? And if it's on a public blockchain, that means anybody who knows what that ID is, they could literally just walk by me with an RFID scanner or any kind of scanner, because they can steal your credit cards that way too. And then they can literally track me. And if I've got 5 or 6 of them on me, you know, they're more likely to be able to find me anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So
And,
these
and
are
can you make it implantable for security purposes, so if I get kidnapped, they can find me?
yeah. So there's different levels of these chips and different levels of security. Um, to the extent that these are passive chips, so they're not active beacons. So it's not like a Find Your iPhone where you can just ping it and give off GPS location. Right now, I can only pull GPS location off the phone, and there's limited information of what I can pull from that phone. But GPS will give me a range, so that's how I can kind of tell if this has been compromised and the same chip is being pinged all over the world, for example. Um, but we do use anonymous. We don't show user ID on the transaction. And again, we're still proof of concept, very early stage, pre-revenue. But in our prototype right now, you would not be able to pull any of that privacy or user information unless the user wanted to disclose it, right? But as of this time, um, I'm not aware of any technology that would be this is not RFID, so it's a cousin to it, but you'd have to actually touch the chip onto the item to pull that information. How to would get compromised from a phone? We'd have to get into that, but we don't currently have a wallet right now that we would use. We'd probably use a third-party wallet.
Awesome. So, as you go through this, Andy, and I think you mentioned even today in this first half an hour, at least 10 to 20 use cases of this technology. The portability of NFTs in games, for example, is just one, and digitizing your luxury goods and your automobiles and your homes, etc., is the second one. Um, as you go through this, there's literally, it's like drinking from a fire hose, one of those applications. How do you go about, and maybe you guys have a good answer for this, how do you go through strategy knowing that this is kind of an opportunity for almost any physical good to have a digital representation and management and portability and regulation possibly surrounding it so that it's not counterfeited, etc. How do you go about picking one or two places where this will actually work the best at the moment? What do you guys think?
I can try to share my story.
Sorry to interrupt, but I do have to jump off, but I'm loving this conversation. And Andy, I'm really excited about what you're working on, and hopefully we can connect offline. But really great to see all of you, and look forward to being in touch. And thank you, Mariana.
Thanks,
Nice
Esther.
meeting
Good
you,
luck
sir.
with your meeting.
Thanks.
So does anyone want to comment on this? I was trying to get Alex in, but his mic is still not working. I'm not sure what's going on with the connection. All right, well, I'll start. So let's say you think about.
What about now?
Okay, Alex, we have to get you a new mic for the next session. So let's say we start with NFTs as basically as they exist today. So you have many, many NFT marketplaces at the moment. Would you cut a deal with the existing NFT marketplaces, and what would that deal look like? I would I would suggest to start there, not because you can go and convince Louis Vuitton to add this to their purses or DMB to add it to to connect to the VIN number, and maybe it's not a DMV solution. I'm not sure who would do that for you, all the car manufacturers, but it's a long process, and NFT marketplaces are open for new opportunities. What would be your positioning to an NFT marketplace? What kind of revenue are you bringing to them to partner with you?
Yeah, that's a great point, Myron, and that's correct too. By the way, we've talked to LVMH, we've talked to PSA, we've talked to Mercedes. Very long. They want to see more fleshed out. Right, we're too early for them, and a lot of red tape. In general, collectibles is a lifestyle type category, and the way we're starting, at least our approach, is on the traditional side. When I say traditional, just in the collectibles world, we're working with influencers, athletes to go direct to consumer. A lot of these athletes feel pigeonholed, right? You got Top Shots out there doing NFT, but like, guess what? How much money is that actually going to the actual athletes, right? So athletes are interested. They feel like they're the brand. They've got the Instagram followers. Why aren't they monetizing directly? And when you're working with the agents, if you can help their athletes find other revenue streams outside of the league and contracts, it's always a good thing. So we've had good success in talking to NBA athletes. I work with a lot of athletes to invest into different placements in cannabis and other in crypto and other placements. So I've got a pretty strong network there, and we've done pretty well. That's how we've done a lot of our POCs. I'm also working with a lot of influencers, on TikTok and others that would also do limited drops that would have like, think about a celebrity chef who then could chip an apron and then have like recipes and personalized cooking content on that chip, right? So we're trying to go into the splash, the pizzazz, get the consumers comfortable with the technology, influencers that have wide reach, and the sizzle of this, bringing a physical item to the digital world. So that's how we're going to canvas it. And we've got a couple card manufacturers that's Upper Deck that are small startups. And then we're hoping to bait that into them, right? Work with the influencers to put their own purses and sunglasses such that we can bring in the LVMH and the Ray-Bans and whoever else wants to come on board. But that's a faster sales cycle, we think, going to the influencers. And then regarding the NFTs, we've already set up a lot of partnerships and talking to them. We're at early stages in these conversations, but the proposition to the NFT companies would be, all right, you have this digital asset in this world, and people have already paid in your marketplace wallet. We're not trying to disrupt that ecosystem, but if that person came to the physical world, would you use our NFC platform to register it in the physical world? So you've got this great piece of art. Can we put a gems chip inside of a lithograph canvas and then now hang that on your wall, right? What we don't want to get into is the licensing and DRM piece of it, because somebody might overproduce these. Now you've got 10,000 of these bespoke Banksy or Mona Lisa or whatever out there. I mean, DRM is having its own problem in its own media place. I think just helping NFTs come to the physical world and creating a new physical marketplace in the traditional rails, I think that's interesting. Not every NFT purist may believe that, but for those that believe in maybe this hybrid world, I think that would be a good partnership for us.
Okay, so let's look at that first, business case, which is helping influencers sell physical goods with their brand on it and they're authenticated. Would your technology help to monetize each sale, or was it just the authentication of each sale?
Yeah, we basically have to provide the support infrastructure. Obviously, there's a physical cost to the chip, um, several cents up to 50 cents, depending on the form factor. I mean, just so people have an idea, these NFCs can go into a credit card. A physical disc looks like a kind of a contact lens material. It can go into a button. I can put this into a custom made suit, a blouse. I could put this into a machine washable tag. I can put this into a bracelet that you'd find at a music festival. There's just so many different form factors that NFC can go into. Um, so that being said, really just open up to the influencer, to whatever their platform is. I spoke with one gal. She's specializes on TikTok on doing, let's say like um, food for that she packs for her students, for kids for the lunch, right? I mean, a lot of things you want to make sure that kids are eating healthy food. You want to make sure whatever. What if she had her own brand of let's say tomato sauce, right? She could demonstrate what farm it came from up in Santa Rosa, where it was manufactured, test reports, freshness, when it was manufactured, when it was sealed and packed. You could supply that and add value, digital value onto that, right? We're talking to a local juicery in Houston. Um, they want to be, they don't pasteurize their juice, expires in 4 days. Well, they want to put the chip in the lids to basically show the recipe, show where the vegetables were sourced from, and there's a lot of marketing digital value. Also, this goes back to the privacy question, but if the user wants to opt in, they can also add their cell phone or their email. So, from an acquisition standpoint, the traditional manufacturer of these sauces or juices would just have a UPC label and they'd have like an expiration date. It's a one-way communication. Now the chip allows for digital and two-way communication for marketing, customer acquisition, extending the brand, offering coupons, totally digitizing the business, which companies are paying high acquisition costs for in the internet world. Why not in the physical product world?
So, okay, so I'm still stuck with sort of scaling issue on this. I'm listening to all your use cases so far, and it's there has to be one where you can actually offer it to someone who already has relationships with a bunch of people, a bunch of companies, or a bunch of brands that can use your product, and you can scale that way versus sort of having to get each NBA influencer to adopt this, and it has to be added to the product they're selling. So you have to negotiate with their product manufacturer, distributor, etc. Usually the distributors, you can probably add it at a distribution level. We had a similar issue with MyCanna, which is one of the companies I've been advising, was trying to do supply chain management on blockchain with QR codes, which is really not that different. But at the end of the day, what MyCanna ran into is that they had to spend 3 to 6 months just orienting brands and or influencers. They focused mostly on large brands. How to actually add the codes, what does it mean, how to manage the data, why do they need this data. So it was almost like a strategy project at the front end, and then you're hoping to add X many products with these codes in them that you can then attach to the blockchain platform. So I'm seeing a similar issue with what you're trying to do. And so, who would be that ideal partner? Is it an NFT platform? Is it a brand like Adidas that has a lot of influencers using their products and promoting their products? Or is it maybe an influencer platform? Who would be that ideal first client that would help you launch and showcase this connection between the two worlds?
Yeah, I think anything in the manufacturing distribution world, like you said, in the traditional sense, it's a lot of friction. I mean, just to even not only there's a cost of the chip for my masks, but just to have somebody affix that chip and then log each unique ID against that batch, we're adding about a cent and a half to 2 cents per mask just on labor to manage this, right? Which in the PPE world, there's not much margin there. Um, at least anymore, right? We're back to pre-pandemic, even probably even lower because it's so competitive with this amount of manufacturers that are out there right now. And so there is a lot of friction, and yes, there's a huge training adoption curve there. Think about at the distribution level, people have to tap my masks. Somebody at a CVS who's buying my mask has to tap it or know to tap it, and even if they did tap it, may or may not know what to do with that data, right? So we simply put at the first level, just expiration date and the things that you get on a normal label packaging. And then if they want the heavier data, they can just download a PDF and read the reports if they're even able to distinguish it, right? So I think that's kind of the level of traceability that we provide at a very, mask is not a high tech product, as an example, Mariana. But I think that's why we want to stay in the collectibles, high value luxury good. Um, our goal is not to be a software kind of consulting company. There are companies out there that can do NFC for large Fortune 500. I think what makes us unique is that we provide data layer for a secondary market, right? I mean, imagine right now LVMH, for example, they can see what they sold per season by style, by product ID, but once it leaves retail, they have no idea. There's people out there that can't afford a brand new Chanel purse that may want to buy lightly used. They buy it on the Real, Craigslist, all these other secondary marketplaces, right? And I think giving those buyers confidence is one thing, and then that's the authentication piece. and traceability piece. But also, like, imagine, I always use this example, but like, imagine if your purse got stolen, Mariana, favorite one, it's discontinued, no longer online, can't find it secondary. If these were chipped and asset tagged, you could go out there and find someone who's got 250 of these bags lightly used sitting in their closet, not even knowing they have it, don't really need the money, don't really need to sell it. But if someone made them an offer anonymously saying, hey, I'll pay you 2x for this bag, it's my favorite, that person might be motivated to sell it, right? And that's kind of like the Zillow example where, just because your house isn't on sale doesn't mean it doesn't have value, but you have an address for others to find you. So that's kind of the idea that we'd use for secondary markets, so that secondary buyers could actually go find these goods that may be discontinued, or something that they're looking for that they can't find on other marketplaces, right? And then also think about the data that we could provide to a Chanel and or LVMH and saying, hey, look at all the secondary data on this particular model. Maybe you should come in with a, let's call it, more affordable representation of that brand and a sub brand that you have, that regular these buyers can't afford at that price point, but there's thousands of these secondary transactions, so we can validate for that brand some insights that they have no data on right now at all.
And so, as you look at all these different opportunities, it seems that you tried an opportunity that had, wide distribution like masks, especially this last year, but yet had a very small margin. So those products are maybe not an ideal place to start. Do you think the luxury market maybe, or, large ticket item market like real estate and automobiles, maybe the place to start integrating this technology?
Yeah, that's correct. But like I said, starting with major manufacturers and Fortune 100 companies, a very long sales cycle, and they don't want unproven tech, right? So, and that's the double-edged sword that we have to deal with, and that's kind of why we have to start with the influencers, because I think they're already creating their own brands, right? Kylie Jenner doesn't need to go work with L'Oreal; she can make her own makeup line. So these influencers have a lot of power right now, and they can work with white label OEM brands. And that's something I was doing with a lot of the Chinese OEMs that I worked with, was pairing up these Bluetooth speakers on, or earbuds on Amazon with terrible branding, right? China doesn't know how to brand, and then pairing them with an influencer and then white labeling, right? That was something that we were doing prior to the pandemic, just helping with supply chain and distribution into the US market, right? You see all these Chinese Bluetooth earbuds that have 5,000 reviews, 4.5 stars, and the brand name is like BLZK or something that makes no sense. So that's like kind of the arbitrage that I've been seeing just from a branding aspect. Imagine taking that same infrastructure supply chain and partnering with a high power influencer, or let's call it a non corporate brand, that could easily put our chips into it, and start the distribution and use that as a way to bait in the larger brands to come in after, because they don't want to get passed up, right? They'll adopt after it's gotten all the PR, the press, influencers destroying their market, and then they're going to come back and either try to acquire you, or they're going to try to mimic it, or also get licensing for it, is kind of our hope.
Adrian, and do you have any ideas on whether this may or may not work in the influencer market? You've been in it for a long time.
I think if an influencer is passionate about something, they can move the needle on just about anything, like literally anything. So, uh, if you're talking about, I mean, I have influencers I can introduce you to who are doing some launches coming up in the next few months, especially that have merch. And it would be very cool if the uh, if the NFT that's inside this chip, if we do it reverse. So I just had a spark of an idea. So get your paper out. Okay, so I'm designing these private token gate, NFT gate locked communities for a bunch of different Grammy winning platinum selling artists. Because right now Spotify and Instagram and all the social platforms own their audience. They don't own their audience, nor do they have direct contact with their audience. So they sell merch at their concerts. What would be very cool is if the merch that they sell at their concerts comes with this embedded IP, this embedded chip that they can then scan, that then invites them into the community, number one. But number two, gives them a digital version of whatever merchandise they just bought, that they can tag into your wallet app would have to be like a multi-sig, multi-chain compatible. So they could add it to your wallet, but then the other wallet that whatever the community is using or the metaverse is using could actually see that they own this. Then that merch could go into their metaverse closet that they could wear it in the metaverse. Normally, what we do is we sell digital merch in the metaverse, and then there could be a burnable token to get a real world version of it. This is literally the reverse, and this is actually where I think you're going to make the most money immediately. Is people are interested in NFTs, they're interested in metaverses, but most consumers, I mean, we're still at like the 3% adoption for this kind of thing. But if you're talking about, and I can hook you up with Garth Brooks, social media manager, um, and when you're talking about putting this chip in all of the t-shirts and all of the all the swag that they sell at the concerts, and then all of a sudden they now have this accessible to wear in the metaverse, that's going to drag them into the metaverse. So if the celebrity partners it with, they're going to do both a they'll do a real world concert, but maybe they're going to do smaller versions because of COVID. So they're going to do a simulcast in the metaverse. That could actually be really freaking cool.
I love that. I think you
And
should definitely talk to Adrian about this.
so there's I'm doing an NFT fashion show at nft.nyc in November. So I can hook you up with that fashion designer, and we could do it as a test, but that would be a major media story because number one, it's New York, it's fashion, it's a big NFT conference, but it's actually something that makes sense to consumers reading an article. It's a piece of clothing that I like that I'm wearing, and now I can actually wear it in the metaverse too.
That's awesome. I like that whole XR idea.
Yeah, because that way, and then if they sell the thing or they give it away, they no longer have access to it. It's out of their metaverse closet too. But that would be a fast way to do it. And I am Kai, EYEAMKI. If you look at her stuff, holy mackerel. I'm actually going to bring this to her because she's selling NFTs, and she actually like goes to the thrift store and then tricks out her clothes, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, who are you wearing?" She's like, "Goodwill, because America needs to go back to work." And her stuff, if you look at her Instagram, I mean, I'm like, "Who is your stylist?" She's like, "Me." I'm like, "I need to raid your closet." It's so good. Um, but that could be really cool to embed those in those pieces of clothing so that when those pieces of clothing get sold in the real world, uh, they come with the metaverse copy, and you have to have the real world item in order to. I mean, there could be a way in the metaverse, and if you make a piece of your wallet the closet, it verifies that they have the item before they can wear it in the metaverse.
I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's great. Would appreciate. Would love to collaborate. I mean, there's so many verticals, as Mariana said. We can go into auto, fashion, luxury. There's a multitude, and I love that each one should be kind of localized for each one. And metaverse and unlocking the digital is third on our roadmap. Um, but we think we can extend that pretty quickly if we had the right partners. Right, that's not where we want to play. We just want to get chips and everything, and then from there you can provide. Where that material of that clothing was sourced from. Was it responsibly? Is it made out of hemp? Is it nylon? Is it, whatever the materials are, you can actually validate the supply chain if that was even of interest. Or if you wanted to just do like, yeah, limited edition digital content, metaverse stuff, could be like for the music example, you could have a limited track that's not on iTunes, right? An exclusive there.
Yep.
You could do a lot of
Well,
different things there. And I think that's what's exciting.
but the idea is you want to drive them for the musicians anyway. You want to drive them to your private community so that they are then in your database and you have the ability to reach out and push notify them. That's what I think is the that's what we're designing and why we're doing it. The
Yep.
reason I think that well, one more thing, you need to integrate a dynamic oracle to be able to update uh, the content of the NFT. You normally can't, but there can be a component that's unlockable content, and that's either hosted on IPFS or S3. An S3 bucket would be easier than IPFS because then you could just add things to it as they want to add things or change things out.
Yeah, we certainly could take a look into that. Maybe we could. Jacob's in here. Mari, can you? Are the guests allowed to speak?
Yeah, I just invited Jacob.
Jacob was with me at Consensus. He can kind of talk on some of those pieces.
Hello.
Hi, Jacob.
What was the question? I apologize.
Could you? So I do NFTs that use dynamic oracles to update information. Like lifetime stats and things like that for athletes. So when I was talking about putting this chip in real world celebrity swag merchandise and having that unlock, like only if you buy the real authentic do you get the NFT that comes with it. And with the NFT is this unlockable content, which could possibly be a digital representation of that item in the metaverse. But there could also be other things in there, like once they have that NFT, if there's a way to, update it to include things like early access to concerts or things like that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, this is something we talked about quite a bit, especially for super fans that,
Yep.
like, for example, I grew up with a lot of my friends who were into jam bands like Fish or
Yep.
Grateful Dead and stuff like that. So being able to prove that you've been to 10 or 20 or 30 shows in a given time period or a year, or attended a very specific show, we were talking about it could unlock live recordings. It could access additional swag that you might get into, maybe a VIP backstage
Exactly.
photography
Well,
session. Yeah, that's stuff that we.
that's exactly what I'm building. I just hadn't built it into the real world merchandise, but that's exactly what I'm building. Is the
Yeah,
proof
I
of
think.
attendance protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a huge game changer for cutting out a lot of the middlemen, so that creators can connect directly to their communities in the future. It's going to take a little while to build all that out.
That no, I'm doing it right now. That's literally what I'm doing. Is the whole protocol is own your audience, because
Very
they
cool.
don't. All the social media platforms own their audience. They don't own their audience, and this gives them a way to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we're coming here full circle. Andy and I met on a project that was, I was on the board of directors with the guy who actually worked on MySpace and that whole roll up and sold it to Fox. And MySpace was like their original idea was just this, what we're trying to build here. And clearly, once they were sold to Fox, that didn't happen. And then the next generations of MySpace, like Facebooks, Instagrams, etc., did not give that kind of access to their own database to all of these amazing creators and influencers. And I think here with the blockchain technology and what Adrian is building, you can finally say this is definitely something that could be done right now with the technology that we have. And then one can really build their business from their brand finally in many different ways. So that said, I love all of these ideas. Adrian, what do you think in terms of integrating the physical? Is that something that will happen in 2021, or is this sort of a longer term project?
Oh no, it's now. You mean these physical chips see, this is the reverse. This is what I think is cool. We're already doing NFTs for real world items. I mean, we've got cars, we've got all sorts of things. We've been tokenizing real estate and using NFTs for titles. We put marriage licenses in Nevada. All the title registries in Wyoming are now, I think, NFTs. So, we've been doing NFTs for real world items. We haven't been doing it the other way around. The real world item with an NFT. That is super cool, actually. And now that I think about it, it's like I'm wondering how easy or hard it would be to put QR codes on each individual trading card to make each individual trading card tied to an actual NFT. Now you're going to make me go look at that, because everybody plays these trading card games, right? But and then they have NFT trading card games, but they don't usually tie them together.
Well, we actually have a QR code solution. I'll introduce you to Aryan Roman. He runs MyCanna, and he has a partnership with Kudelski Security. Scott's traveling in Europe, so he's not here today, but he definitely has a solution for the QR code integration, the QR codes are very inexpensive. Andy
Yeah.
has, these codes that are, based on a more advanced technology that I think are very relevant for some pricier items. I think that's kind of what we're getting to at the
Yeah, the
moment.
What was
problem with QR is it's static, so you can only jump out to a URL. So think like when you're at a restaurant, it's only going
right?
to take you to restaurantwhatever.com/menu, right? So it's very direct, one to one. There's man in the middle issues. Things could be hacked. You'd have to
Yep.
authenticate with a PIN. That can also be replicated. So if I counterfeited that, I mean, all it takes to counterfeit a QR code is to print it. So just like Jason's example of just reprinting that foil hologram or whatever, you could also reprint the QR code in the same fashion. So that's why, actually, I wish I could share some image here, but we've actually done prototype basketball cards, right? Football cards, baseball cards, and the chip kind of goes into it, and it actually can be designed really well. I'll share it with you offline, Adrian, but and the way we've done it is really interesting, and everybody I show it to is like super amazed because think about it, you can bring now your Pokemon Charizard card to life, right? You can see him shoot fire, you can see him battle, whatever you want to do, right? Like that can all be updated pretty easily and dynamically, right, as things change. We've talked confidentially to MLB about, how would we build a baseball card that was connected kind of like DraftKings, where it's based on performance and increases their ability to value of that card based on their performance, right? Like, how do you
I
tie
can do
fantasy
that.
football to a physical
I,
object, right?
I can totally do that, because that's exactly what I'm doing for youth sports, is the dynamic oracle that updates all the stats, and it can also
Exactly.
update the powers and everything else.
I love that. That's great.
That's awesome. So, CJ, you had a question? Welcome, CJ.
Hello, hello. I was actually going to add to the conversation the mention of the NFC tags and a comment on the QR codes. But then before I made it to the stage, both of those topics were addressed. So happy to contribute, or if I have any other questions, I'll chime back in. But the two things I was going to contribute were already added to the conversation. So
Yeah,
thank you.
the difference between the two, huh? That's good. That's good. Good knowledge to have for this conversation. Um, so, in terms of the NFT marketplaces, I don't think we answered that question. Is this something that OpenSea or Rarible cares about?
No, no. Here's why. You're going to build your own brand. You're going to build gems. Why are you going to market OpenSea? It'll cost you $500 to literally make a Polygon version of OpenSea. So you have transaction fees that are nothing, instead of my $50 NFT with a $253 gas price. So of course it didn't sell. These are the kinds of things that regular OpenSea, Rarible, and Mintable, they're all trying to solve. You can solve it right away, have a gems marketplace, and the gems marketplace only has items that have your technology in it. People are going to start to go there because people go to these other marketplaces. And I kid you not, I logged in, hit browse, and the first thing I saw is a $500 NFT of, I swear to God, the stock photo I just used on Canva like an hour before. There was no authentication. There was no certification, because it's completely open marketplace, right? So if you do an NFT marketplace for gems only, that's going to end up being as as good as super rare and foundation for real world items.
So, Polygon just gave someone I know, and you probably know her, $10,000 to develop an NFTs marketplace because she's been a digital artist for a couple of decades and has been in the blockchain world for a while. And you're saying, forget that foundation sort of launch. You should launch your own marketplace on what chain?
Polygon.
You should pay that
I could literally do it
$10,000.
tomorrow.
Okay, got it.
I could literally do it tomorrow.
So maybe that's the way to think about this technology, because it is a superior technology, as several people attested to this already, and it kind of creates a new form of NFTs that most of the physical world will want at some point.
But you just to be clear, there's two things you're going to need. One is a Shopify plugin, and two is a WooCommerce plugin. If you do that, and you have almost like a Zazzle shop, this is where you become the one-stop shop for all the influencers. You can probably white label Zazzle, or you become a vendor on Zazzle, like a supplier, and then plug into Zazzle, and then put the little icon gems. So then people can order, and you just make, you know, I don't know how you would do it, because they'd have to register the NFTs. But my point is, if you have a way of an influencer coming in going, I want to make coffee cups, I want to make those little travel coffee mugs, I want to make mouse pads, even though everybody uses a phone now, I still need a mouse pad. And t-shirts and hoodies and whatever, and it can have your chip in it with a matching NFT that goes into their wallet, that they can then, with a smart contract, when somebody buys it in their market, on their Shopify or on their WordPress website or whatever, then they get, then it just automatically, the NFT goes with the merchandise. Oh my goodness.
I know Shopify is currently in talks with one of the layer one protocols. It's not publicly disclosed yet, and they are looking at exactly that, building an application to allow storefronts to have NFTs as a sellable digital asset or item. So
I
that's
already do
very
that.
much being explored.
I
Hey,
already do that, but I don't do it on layer one because that's insanity. We have
Adrian,
8 to 12 months before Ethereum 2 comes out. And once that comes out, then we're all good. But the great thing about doing it on Polygon is that they have the plasma bridge. So whatever you have on Ethereum right now, you can plasma bridge that puppy over to Matic. It's perfect. It's seamless. And then you just wash, rinse, repeat, go. And you can continue on your merry way without anybody having to change anything. All your contracts work. I also just minted a bunch of Solidity contracts that I did do on Ethereum. And years ago, I just minted them on Binance Smart Chain, and it worked perfectly. I just literally hit Remax, changed my MetaMask wallet to Binance Smart Chain, boom, compile and publish. Done. It's crazy. So you definitely want layer two.
hey Adrian, here in the States, I think I have a keen interest in having an offline conversation. So maybe we could connect after this.
Sure. I have like 8 appearances today. So
Okay.
DM me on Instagram.
No, but I'll find you. Actually, I
Okay.
don't have Instagram anymore.
That's fine. Twitter.
Don't have that either. I canceled all my social media stuff.
I'm
I'll
at
get Mariana to
Adrian.
connect us.
I'm at Adrian everywhere.
Okay.
She's on Telegram for sure.
Okay. I'll find you on Telegram.
I'm never on Telegram. Don't tell people
Oh
I'm Telegram.
no.
That's
Oh no.
literally Hades for me. I get
Uh,
added to so many groups, and I probably get about 4,000 to 5,000 messages a week.
Oh my
It's
lord.
insanity. It's insanity.
Okay, so I'll connect you guys. No worries.
I
David, you
have,
had a question?
yes, for Adrian. Uh, I feel like the dating game or something here. Uh, Going back to the phrase you mentioned back when you were talking about Garth Hudson,
Garth
Garth
Brooks.
Brooks and whatnot. You said something that triggered something for me. You said you could wear your item,
Uh-huh.
and are you thinking that that would be a virtual meeting place or world or metaverse or whatever, and then are you wrapping that onto avatars, or how do you see that virtual community uh, wearing their clothes or
Have you
using
been to
their item?
Crypto Voxels?
Yes.
Okay. So in Crypto Voxels you can, customize your avatar and things like that.
Yeah. So that's what you're talking about. Okay.
I'm talking about, yeah, having a
Yeah.
duplicate NFT token gated closet of wearables, right? Where if you own that real world item, you have access to it in the metaverse. It actually makes that real world item even more valuable because people will pay
Well,
$20 for a t-shirt. So here was my idea, and this is why I think this is so critical, and I don't know if there's a way to do this, right? Is one of the things that I was doing was we have a couple of my celebs were doing metaverse virtual concerts, and we have the merch table, and we're minting limited editions of merch, and then whatever doesn't sell gets burned. So say only 7 of this one t-shirt sell, there's only 7. That's it.
so in that live concert virtually, are they as well as all of the attendees avatars?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, well, I'm working in immersive worlds now, and I have an idea that I haven't seen done yet. It's complicated, and probably the prototype would be expensive, but once done, can be duplicated. But it would
Expensive.
well, because the prototype always is the most expensive, and then once it works, then you can duplicate it,
Well,
like digital
I'd have
files. But
I'd have to know what it is because I mean I have people that built the entire Burning Man metaverse. I have other ones that have, we have a 3D scan of the Dalai Lama's private meditation chamber and a hologram of the Dalai Lama and 60 barely ever seen by human eyes artifacts that are going to be NFT'd, and that's all to raise money for the Department of Peace.
and how would you access that
Through a
event?
metaverse, just like going to Decentraland or Crypto Voxels or whatever it is. And a matter of fact, we were talking to a couple of different metaverses to see if they wanted to, incentivize us to just be there and not build our own.
What do you mean, just be there?
Like be in Decentraland and be a tourist destination in Decentraland
I see, I see, I see, I see.
instead of
And
building, you know, some a whole metaverse just for meditators, right? Because
and
could you
and
imagine
yeah,
that
no,
people would
no,
buy
and
land and then they would build like their meditation centers and they'd have these yurts and you could literally go on a virtual vacation just like you'd go to Costa Rica and stay in a yurt and have this whole speaker series and learn how to increase your mindset and meditate to the state of nothingness. I've never been to these things. I mean I just I
does that
dabble in
actually
personal
exist?
development.
Does that
No.
exist now, or it's in
No,
the
but
works?
here's the thing. Okay, a decentralized world is literally just an empty map, and you sell plots of land on the empty
Oh,
map,
I know all about it.
and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
people build
yeah,
what they want, right?
oh, yeah.
So no, this doesn't exist yet. So the question is, does Decentraland want to incentivize to do it there, or do we build our own temple
Well,
world?
why wouldn't you want to? Why would you want to be in Decentraland? Why wouldn't you want to have your own temple? I suppose you could have
The
to
care and
draw
maintenance
people
of the
to you.
blockchain and the world is an expensive matter. Maintaining your own little plot of land is nothing. That's decorating. If you're going to build your own world, then you're literally building the foundation and the house and the maintenance and the updates and the
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
the
It's all about coding. Yeah, but
So,
yeah, I
Dave,
don't
uh,
like that
before you
part
go
for
on,
creatives.
let
yeah,
me just
yeah, yeah.
ask Adrian, have you spoken to Superworld at all about this?
I have not. Do you know
Yeah.
Superworld?
Yeah, I've been
Oh,
advising them for 2 years. Yeah. I'll
oh,
introduce you to
perfect.
Rish. I think this is like a perfect Superworld scenario with Dalai Lama
Oh, it
because,
would be perfect.
yeah, we can.
Decentraland has a grant program, and they give you money and land to build, which is
I
why
know.
I was, yeah.
I
But
know.
if Superworld wants to match that, I'm down.
You should definitely talk to them. I'll
Okay.
introduce you to Rish. I think the interesting thing about Superworld is that they were selling this land 2 years ago, It was like point 0.1 ETH, which was $20 at the time. And now it's
Yep.
hopefully a lot more this week, we hope. But the bottom line is that they have envisioned what you're describing, by influencers that you're describing inside Superworld, where they would actually get, basically revenue, not just from what they're building. The fact that they own the land would give them access to all sorts of revenues that they don't have to bring in themselves, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
So I like that. Okay.
I've
So
got I've
Dave, you
got
want to,
five different projects for them that would be
yeah,
all
introduce
money
him.
makers. Yeah.
Okay. I'll make that intro to Rish. He's in Dubai raising his Series A right now, but he'll be back this week. Okay.
Awesome.
So, Dave, you want to tell us about your project, or is it too early to talk about it?
Well, it's a little early, and I think it'd be better if I just go through you, Mariana, and
Okay.
speak with Adrian, and but yes, we're moving in not parallel, but we're coming from different angles to the same spot.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All roads lead to Rome.
Yeah. Dave's been in
Yes.
VR, AR for a long time. Chris, you have a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, I just came on. I'm absolutely new to this clubhouse. It's fantastic, but here's what I wanted to run past you. I have a company, and we're the curators of what's called the classic sci-fi art anthology. And what it is it's the largest collection of classic sci-fi art from 1910 to 1970. We've had it since the late 90s, and we actually acquired the collection from Forey Ackerman. And it's been in movies, TV shows. It was one of the biggest set of wallpapers back in the days when kids bought wallpapers and didn't steal them. We sell a lot of merchandise. And we got approached about a month and a half ago about NFTs, and which I know nothing about. I'm a film producer, but we got approached to it, and as we looked at it, it's been said to us we've gotten contacted from Japan, from England, different art galleries, and saying, "Hey, this could be a really good NFT." Adrian and Mariana, do you feel that way, or am I looking at it
Yeah.
wrong?
Yes, and lawyer. This is not financial advice or legal advice, but I will tell you what you need to look for. So you have to be careful how you NFT intellectual property of others, right? So you have the art, right? But in the United States, an artist maintains copyright of their art even after they sell the actual painting. So you need to have rights clearances done on everything, or there needs to be a workaround. What you are allowed to do is NFT every single piece of your art and hang it in your own museum and make a metaverse version of your museum. Uh, you can totally do that. There's all sorts of things you can do that you have to talk to a lawyer to find out. And have you met Alexandra Damasker?
Who?
Alexandra Damsker?
No, who's that?
Okay, she's like the top SEC entertainment IP lawyer, crypto vixen. She's one of
Oh,
my top crypto vixens. She's amazing. And she could have a discussion for an hour about this one little topic because it's really complicated. It's one thing if you are doing NFTs of your own designs, your own art, your own intellectual property. You own the trademark, you own the copyright, you own the music publishing. Totally done. Easy, right? That's why NFTs and stuff for music is so much easier for indie artists, right? When you're talking about somebody who's more established, who may or may not own their catalog, like Garth Brooks owns his catalog, he can do whatever the heck he wants. But other people still have this tie back to the music labels, and they'd have to get clearances. All their contracts would have to be reviewed to determine who actually owns the rights to NFT it. So these are the things about art. That's where it gets complicated. You need to make sure that you can do the whole provenance and who owns what, and is the copyright still held by an estate somewhere? Is it public domain? 1910, it's public domain now, so you're fine. So your early stuff, you can absolutely NFT anything over 70 years old.
got it.
It's the other stuff that you got to figure out. So this is where, feel free to hit me up. I mean, this is my jam.
Okay.
That's literally my zone of genius right now. And I come from the entertainment world, so that's why I understand rights clearances and all of that. So
Yeah, I understand it pretty well too. And in fact, we did secure this. This was back in the late 90s. And we
mm-hmm.
actually had all the art transported down, had it all shot professionally. We've licensed it before, but you're absolutely right. I should talk to the lawyers again. We licensed it before. It's appeared, pieces of it have appeared in multiple films, multiple TV shows. If you watched, what was the Big Bang
mm-hmm.
Theory? Yeah, all that artwork was ours, and it's
Oh
all
wow.
licensed. Yeah, now for that though, at that side of the company's business, that is handled by Getty. That Getty handles that side of it. Then we actually licensed it for 3 years over in Europe to a company called Lagardère, which is the biggest magazine publishing company I think in the world, or at least in Europe. But
Well,
they
if
had
you
it for
have
3 years.
if you have the rights to license it, then you have the rights to NFT it, because what you're
Okay.
NFTing is a digital representation of it. You're not NFTing the copyright or the licensing rights or anything else. It's just a digital representation. So that would be just like licensing. So anything that you have ever licensed before has already been rights cleared.
Okay. I still though wouldn't mind, if you wouldn't mind, Adrian, could I message you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I'll get back to you in about a month. I never my yeah, the least busy inbox is Twitter. The next least busy inbox is Facebook Messenger, because only people who actually know me ever message me on Facebook. Then Instagram gets a little nutty. LinkedIn, I just never go because I hate their inbox. Telegram and WhatsApp make me crazy, and I never look at Signal unless you text message me and tell me that you sent me something on Signal.
Okay. I'll go through the Facebook. I will say this though, Adrian, you've got a great looking LinkedIn page.
I have a great looking LinkedIn. No, I'm an influencer. I mean, that's my problem.
Wow.
I had to double lock that puppy because I was getting like 500 requests a day.
Yeah, I know that. Mariana, is that the same for you, or can I
You
write
can
you
do
on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn?
You can do LinkedIn for me. I use it
She's
every day.
she's way more professional than I am.
Sorry.
I know I should. I just don't like it. They don't
No,
give me options. Somebody needs to do an API overlay. I need multiple inboxes. I need to be able to file things. I need to be able to flag things for follow. Like there's no functionality in that inbox. It's like 7,000 people going happy anniversary 15 times a year.
I've been in technology pretty much all my life, and we have a saying: every new technology ultimately is just one more way for people to bug you.
Yes. I used to check Instagram quarterly, and then I got on ClubHouse, and I literally said, DM me on Twitter. I suck at Instagram.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, a week later, I found the other inbox in Instagram. I didn't even know there was an inbox in Instagram. That's how bad I was at Instagram. And there was like 400 messages in there.
Okay,
like,
well, I'll go through Facebook.
There should have been 400 messages in Twitter, because I said Twitter, and
Right.
it's wide open.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
And like
Thanks
I said,
for the question.
we've got sites up right now. We've got a full merchandise site. We're actually selling artwork all the time. All the way up to museum quality on canvas. All of that. So we've got a very viable business going with it. And like I said, it was back in the days of wallpapers. We were like number 2 in the world in terms of downloads during the month of October, just because we had all these films that we had the rights to, including Halloween.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, dude, hit me up. I have like the best killer idea. Seriously, hit me up.
Oh, okay. Because all my investors. This is back a while back when I had post-production facilities up in LA. I'm in Newport Beach now, but I had post-production facilities, and I had a big investor group, and it was all the guys that did all those horror movies. It was Joe Wolf, Mustafa Key, Murray Moss, Howard Schwartz, and we did horror films and all this stuff.
We can make millions. Hit me up on the DMs.
What is it? Why?
I'm not going to say it out loud, but I just got a download from the universe. I'm not going to say it out loud.
Yeah. Okay. I'll get in touch with you and send you the links and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, definitely would like to talk. Like I said, I know. Although I'm really excited about it because, like I said, I just got contacted out of the blue by an NFT guy out of Nevada, and he said, "Hey, I know about your art collection. We worked together years ago." And he goes, "Do you know what NFTs are?" And I was like, "No fun time? No, I don't know. That's about as much as I knew." But I tried to catch up here as quick as I can. And like I said, we're
Yeah.
being approached, but I know I want to handle it right and get the right team members, or maybe I need to get an agent or another company to handle it and stuff. Because yeah, I do agree with you. It sounds like a pretty good opportunity for us.
Oh, I have a great execution idea for you. So yes.
Okay, good. Let's
Yeah.
put
Awesome.
you in charge.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to thank you guys for, Adrian and Andy and Eric and Chris for asking your question, and for everyone else
Thank you.
joining us today to launch this new room that we're hosting out of the Infiom Club on ClubHouse, which is how to add NFTs, DeFi, and blockchain to your existing venture. We also have one about how to create unicorns, which is on Wednesday in the NFTs, DeFi spaces, etc. That one is Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, following our virtual Infiom Salon, which is still on Zoom. Yeah, we're still in the old technology there. And that's from 12:30 tomorrow. And if you just search Infiom on Eventbrite, you can join us for the Zoom presentation. We have some very interesting companies discussing their go to market strategies tomorrow. We have about 4 different ventures. One has venture capital investment from Europe. It's called Film Chain, and tracks basically all the royalties and payments in the film business and creative businesses. We have a company that was just invested by, that's in the technology space, just got an investment from Draper Goren Holm, presenting tomorrow. And then a couple of other companies that are deep in sort of providing services to a variety of blockchain ventures. So I hope you can join us for that. And then follow us on Clubhouse right after at 1:30 to continue discussion with all the presenters and all of our speakers that we had today. And then on Thursday, we started a Clubhouse on XR, distributed XR communities. And Adrian, this may be interesting to you, with Vortex Immersion, which is a company I sat on the board of directors of for several years now. And they launched these large domes around the world with different creative projects and productions being launched in them. And they're very decentralized as a company, and they want to have a discussion on how to infuse blockchain into that as well. So those are all the things this week. We expanded events and hope you guys can join us there. And you can follow us, Ed Mariana D, on the Clubhouse. Adrian, what's your handle on the Clubhouse? You can probably just link on it. And
It's at Adrian, literally everywhere.
Okay, at Adrian, you can follow her. And if you join the club, then you will get all the notices of all these events happening this week. So thanks, everyone. Really appreciate you joining us today, and see you tomorrow.